Cosmopolitan magazine, often dubbed Cosmo, is a women's magazine that began as a publication for families dating back to their first product in 1886. Since that time, it has undergone a radical transformation into the magazine we know it as today. The publication heralds women and the struggles they face every day through their relationships, while in school, at work, with fashion and beauty, in sex and health, and even when celebrity status. The perceived reach of Cosmo, according to their website, is an estimated 53,723, based on subscriptions both online and digital. But as anyone with decent oral hygiene can tell you, just because you peruse the magazines in the waiting room doesn't mean you subscribe to them. Or does it? Cosmo is published each month in 64 different international editions, 35 languages, and is distributed to more than 110 countries. They have a perceived scope of 18 million plus readers in the United States alone. Culturally, the magazine has appeared in movies, music, and shows, such as Norma Ray, An Officer and a Gentleman, Sir Mix-a-Lot's Baby Got Back, Dawson's Creek, 10 Things I Hate About You, Legally Blonde, The Hills, Good Luck Chuck, The Other Guys, The Mindy Project, Pretty Little Liars, and much, much more. So with all this hype supporting Cosmo as the #1 rated publication for young women in the U.S., I find myself wondering why. Why is it that out of all the publications available to young women, we choose this one? What makes it so great? And more importantly, what makes it not so great? I decided to first read up on the most recent publications available through the school library. At first glance, the magazine appears to be a positive women empowerment publication that focuses on women's right to health care, sex advice, beauty tips, career help, style suggestions, and celebrity gossip. Upon delving into the articles deeper, however, a disturbing yet resurfacing trend among the articles and columns appeared. Many of the articles exhibit grand statements regarding the desires or trends for women everywhere. They generalize about what women really want to wear, who they want to sleep with, the jobs they want to have, and how to get them all. The articles disconnect from a lot of women in the world who do not fit into these categories or even encapsulate the same personality or style traits. So is a magazine that is so wildly successful in comparison to other publications actually more or less beneficial for women? The only way to know for sure would be to do a cross-examination of the ways in which the magazine reinforces or resists the female stereotype. My question then is this: in what ways do 3 2015 issues of Cosmopolitan magazine reinforce and or resist stereotypical female concepts and perceptions? This meant that I would have to look for the ways in which Cosmo was directing women to act or feel based on how they were perceived as a whole and whether or not it was a positive thing. Next, I coded the stories into data so that I could see both the negative and positive presence when reported statistically. Examples of reinforcing stereotypical female concepts and perceptions include any use of demeaning female verbiage, making generalizations of women's wants, needs, and thoughts, provocative or suggestive outfits and body positioning, making fun of women behavior or putting other women down, or suggestions of action for the happiness and betterment of another person, specifically male partners. Examples of resisting these stereotypical female concepts and perceptions would be anything that applauded individuality or standing up for one's beliefs, positive and supportive female verbiage, the promotion of research and education, supporting other women's accomplishments, and actions or decisions for the happiness and health of oneself. In a total of 41 articles or pieces examined in the June issue, there were 78 cases of reinforcing stereotypes or damaging perceptions and concepts, 66 cases of resisting stereotypes or damaging perceptions and concepts were present. That means that roughly 54% of the articles negatively reinforced stereotypes about women. Of that 54%, I found the most negatively present article was titled 12 Things Your Bae Doesn't Care About in Bed. The most positive article was Zooey Deschanel's interview, where she referenced and supported the Ask Her More campaign. For July, of the 40 articles examined, I found 42 instances of reinforcing stereotypes and damaging perceptions and concepts, and 45 instances of resisting stereotypes and damaging perceptions and concepts. That means that only 48% of the articles negatively reinforce stereotypes about women. Of those, the most explicit and statistically relevant articles were almost evenly skewed. There were 3 negative and 2 positive. With a total of 43 articles examined, August presented as having 48 instances of reinforcing stereotypes and damaging perceptions of women, and 40 instances of resisting stereotypes and damaging perceptions of women. This means that 55% of the articles negatively impacted the way women were portrayed, and only 45% positively impacted the way women were portrayed. Quote, "When reinforcing these damaging stereotypes and the objectification of women, what ends up happening is the marginalization and oppression of women while reflecting and satisfying the male gaze," as written by Laura Mulvey in her essay, Visual Pleasure and Narrative Cinema. This means that while we are telling women that if they follow these steps they will be held to a higher esteem, what we are actually doing is shrinking their voice and telling them where they fit into society. Claude Steele, American social psychologist and executive vice chancellor and provost, labels stereotype threat as, quote, "the presence of negative stereotypes that ultimately threatens performance and self-concept of an individual by creating tension and anxiety, even if they do not believe in the stereotype." As Lindsay Kite, PhD and co-founder of the Beauty Redefined Foundation states, these coherent, degrading messages about women serve to normalize unnatural expectations of extreme thinness, idealized beauty, and objectified sexuality. It is oppressive to show readers that female worth and happiness is dependent upon physical appearance, or most prominently, what men supposedly think about their physical appearance. So what does all this mean? In order to lead a truly happy, healthy life, whatever your sex, age, shape, color, etc., you have to first recognize that the media you consume is not all published to serve you. We must reject harmful ideals that tell girls and women their sexuality, health, and happiness is dependent upon whether or not they fit unrealistic beauty standards. You have to be aware that companies that promise products by people like you for people like you are actually by a bunch of people you have never ever met for the paycheck they receive with your purchase. Stay vigilant.